and welcome to my Business Online webinar. The topic we'll be handling in today's webinar is how to get started in your My Business Online. Before we get started, I'd just like to get some formalities out of the way. Everyone is muted, so there are no interruptions during the webinar, and so I can be heard by everyone. If you do have any questions, please feel free to type this in the question box on your screen, and we will address these questions as we go through the webinar. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at how simple and easy it is to set up your company within My Business Online. But before we get started, I'd just like to go through some of the initial home screen pages. So you'll see we'll have a feature option where you can actually see exactly what the My Business Online can do, as well as the pricing. We've also got a find a consultant option, so if you are looking for either an accountant or bookkeeper to assist you, you can from there come and select that. There's also a need help option. So what we've done is we've provided a My Business Online help, where if you click on that help option and you go to your search functionality, you can simply type in any word. So let's say I want to do something with regards to banking. I can search that, and what it will do is it will bring everything with regards to banking. So I can simply go and say, create or edit a bank account, how to go about doing that, and with that it will also be print screens on how to do it. We've also got a full-on getting started guide, so you can download that and also go through that. Quite a nice user guide, about 100 pages, but note that each page does have a print screen. So if you have to look at it, probably take about 2 hours just to work through that. Okay, then let's take a tour of My Business Online if you'd like to do that, and also frequently asked questions. We've also got our support line, email support, or otherwise telephonical support, so 011-304-3805. Otherwise, you can also email support@pastelmybusiness.co.za. So we've also got our downloads option, so if you're looking at downloading it for your Android device, alternatively also a report designer for Windows, so if you want to make any customization on your quotes and invoices and credit notes and statements and so forth, you can actually download this and customize those reports according to your needs. Then we've also got a desktop widget which you can keep floated on your actual screen. So that means you won't have to log into My Business Online, you can simply have it floating on your screen and you'll be able to then see the progress within that day or in that month, where you can also just click down on the graph. Then we've got a Windows search option and also the iPhone app. So you can either run it on your Android device, so you go to the Apple Store and download that app, alternatively also your iPhone one. This means you can manage your business on the go. So as you have a client, you can generate that quotation, send through that quotation, and get it approved. Okay, then we've also got news and updates. So every time we release an update, we'll also give you an update on those features. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to actually log in and have a look at setting up your company. So what we'll do is we'll have a look at setting up your company first, then also adding users, and then we'll have a look at setting up your customers and suppliers. So note with My Business Online, we have tried to keep the features more or less the same. So the tab that you're looking at on the top is the only tab you'll actually see. So from there, you can go down and drop down into the relevant thing that you want to do. And we've removed all accounting jargon. So we refer to it as customers and suppliers, no debtors and credits and so forth. So remember, with the My Business Online is you can access the system from any time, any place. As long as you have internet access, you'll be able to access your information. So even if your computer has to crash or it gets stolen, worst case scenario, you will still then be able to log in and access all that information. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at company, open and manage companies. You'll then see your company listed there. In my case, we've got a few companies. But what you'll do is you'll go to edit. So you'll remember when you just set up your company, you went through some steps where you put in all the information and so forth. But now you might be required to put more information in. So what you'll do is you'll go into Let's Edit. From there, you'll put in your company name, also the telephone number, also fax number, mobile number, email address, And then you'll see there's also an option where it says use this email for communication. So what initially happens is when you sign up for an account, the system will default that email address as your point of communication. If you ever don't want that to be your way of communication, just have to mark your personal email address, you can actually go and change it by simply ticking that block. What will happen is it will use that email address as your point of communication. So just make sure it is an existing email address. Then from there you can put in the contact name. And then you've got these short links so where you can go to additional details, financial year, tax system, and so forth. Alternatively, you can also navigate on the top. So what we can do is go additional details. You might see that some of this is populated already from when you were setting up your company. Alternatively, if not, you'll put in your postal address. You've also got your company information. So on the company information side, if you want to put other information, let's say like a practice number, you can actually go and put that in there. So if I want to put in any type of information, you can actually put in under the company information. Then you've got your company tax number, registered name, registration number, tax office, and then also VAT number. Okay, then you'll also have your first VAT in period. So if you are registered for that, what are those days that was specified then? So is it every month, every second month, so forth, and then also when is your first VAT submission date? And then also what is the VAT period frequency per month? So is it every second month, every month, and so forth? You'll actually go and specify it there. But note, all this information will be provided for you when you go and register for tax. That information will appear on there. Okay, then you've got your financial years as well. So what initially happens is when you go and set up your company, it will default to your previous year and the current year. So if you want to go and create for previous years, you can simply just click on that plus sign, drop down, and let's say I want to go and process for, I haven't processed since 2010. I can from there just go and indicate the following, and then from there make sure that the years follow, and so forth. Okay, so what you'll be able to do now is you'll be able to process it in those years. You can also just go and indicate which will be your default year. Alternatively, if you are up to date, you'll just then go and process for the current year, and you'll leave it as it is. Okay, so this only if you want to capture previous information, you go and create this other financial years. Otherwise, you simply just go and keep your current years. Okay, then you've got your taxing system. So we've compensated for 3 there. It's your invoice base, payment base, and no tax. So invoice base is the most common one used in South Africa. So this is where your 14% tax will be calculated. And then payment base, so invoice base is every time you invoice, tax is compensated for. Or your payment base is only once a payment has been made, has been compensated for. Just make sure if you are picking the payment base that you do get advice from your tax advisor before you make any changes on that, and then no tax. If you're not registered for tax, you can simply go and indicate no tax. Then from there, you'll see at the bottom, you've got all your different types of taxing systems. From your standard rate through to your exports, tax adjustments, and so forth. You're then also able to simply add a tax as well. So let's say I'm running for another country. I can from there put in, let's say the UK, 20%. I can then tick that as my default one. And then simply save it. So that means tax will be calculated according to SA's 14%. But if I'm running my firm as a UK firm and I need it to be 20%, I can then just tick that block and it will be 20%. Okay, so note you can run this for other countries, not just South African countries. Okay, then you've got your rounding as well. So how do you want to round up your settings, either up or down? You then also got your regional settings. So how many decimals do you want after the comma? Is it 2? And then also for your quantity and then the value. Then you can also set up your currency symbol. So if it's rand, you'll leave it as rand. Otherwise, you can also change it according to another foreign currency if you are working in that one. And then your date format is day, month, year, month, date. You can actually go and pick which one suits you best. Then you've got your document setup and logo, so you'll be able to put in your own image on that invoice by simply just browsing for it. So you can drop down, either select the one on the top left or the top right. You will simply click on browse. That will then bring up the certain image. So you'll browse for your image and then just say, but note that the image needs to be in one of the following picture formats. If it's not in that and you've got in Word or Excel, go and copy it over to Paint, and then from there you can save it. And you'll see as on the top as well, we've got document setup. So what this means is the system actually gives a warning. So the first thing you've got there, warn when item quantity falls below 0. So if you are working with a physical item, what you can do is you can tell the system to notify you as soon as that item below 0. So if I'm invoicing a certain item and it's now at a 0 point, the system will tell me that there's no more of that certain item, but I will be able to continue. Otherwise, from that point, I can then know to go to my supplier, order more of those goods, and then I invoice it through to my customer. Okay, then you've also got the same on your cost side. So if cost is 0, you can also tell the system to notify you. Okay, then you've got your report layout. So in the beginning of the webinar, I mentioned that you could download a report designer where you could customize your report. If you do download and you make any customization, you will come in here and drop down and simply select which report you want to have. So everything will indicate as default, but as soon as you set up one of your own reports, you will have your own wording as seen below. And you will simply then just go and select it, and from there save it, and that will then have your changed document setting in there. Then you've got your outstanding balances. So this is how do you want your agent to work with My Business Online. So if you tick the block at the bottom, that means you want it to age on a monthly basis. So if I invoice on the 15th of the month, that invoice will then be due on the 30th of that specific month. If I invoice it on the 1st of that month, it will be due at the end of that month, let's say the 30th or the 31st. If I deselect that monthly block, then that means it will be on actual dates. Normally applicable for your COD clients, so the guys that you expect to get cash from as you deliver. You will remove that tick, and when you invoice it on the 15th of the month, payment will be due on the 15th of the month. Okay, so normally, like I said, your cash clients. Then you've got your statement messages. So if you are making use of statements, whether on a weekly basis or otherwise a quarterly basis, so a statement is just basically a listing of exactly what you've invoiced, what has been paid, and so forth. So you can actually send this off to your clients so they can keep in touch with what they still owe you. And you can put in messages. So you can say as your current message, thank you for purchasing with us, and you can put in your banking details. You can even take it to in 30 days to say your account is now within 30 days. Please make sure payment is made. To the point where you get to 120 days and you actually stipulate there that your account is 120 days overdue. We have handed you over to our attorney. Please make sure payment is received. The next one is your customer document message. So this is your quote, invoices, returns. You can also put in messages there. So instead of retyping it each and every time when you generate a quote or an invoice, you can actually just come in default message here. So let's say valid for 14 days. Then for my invoice, I can put in my banking details. I can also then put in let's say maybe terms and conditions. And so forth. So you can type as much of that message. You can do all of the same for your customer terms, receipts, and write-offs. You'll see there you've got that entire message displaying there. Okay, you've got the same for your supplier document messages as well, where you can put in messages in those boxes. And then also document numbering. So if you are moving from an existing system or alternatively you're manually capturing it and keeping some sort of numbering, you can come into the system and change that numbering. So let's say if I want to change my customer invoice, I ended off on 57, I can then take this away and then my next number will be 58. Okay, then you've also got your document description. So this is what you want that document to display. If you find with the document description as is, you'll leave it as that. If you want to make a change, you can in fact do that. Okay, so what we've done is we've had a look now at setting up your company information. So next thing we'll have a look at is we'll actually have a look at also company notes and attachments. What we've done is we've provided a facility where you can get rid of all the filing cabinets you might have in your office and instead rather scan in those documents and from there attach it to the My Business Online. So this means if you are out at a client and you need, let's say, your BE reports, certificates, alternatively you need some sort of VAT certificate, you can simply come into here, you can then have a look, where is that attachment, you can click on it and from there print it out. So all you'll do is if you want to put in any of those notes, you'll go add attachment, browse for that image. So whether it be in a PDF, a Word document, an Excel document, it doesn't really matter. You will be able to upload that onto the system. Okay, and then you can also manage your categories. So we set up default categories if you want to add, let's say, personal category. You can in fact do that, simply say save and you'll have that category. And at any point you can also delete it. So if you want any emails, let's say, sent between you and a supplier or customer, you can also attach that email documentation and so forth. Okay, then you've also got your notes facility. So if you want to put the birthdays of your employees, you can put that onto the system. Alternatively, you can also create notes on, when your VAT is due, when your financial year, and so forth. So simply just put in those dates, put in what is the subject, and from there save it. Note that all these notes will appear then on your dashboard screen. Okay, the next one we'll have a look at is assets. So you can load assets on the My Business Online system. So if you go to your assets, let's say I can put what is the category. So I can put in information technology. Remember, all these categories in the My Business Online system are purely there for reporting purposes. So if you want to go and print out a report on specifically just a certain category, you can in fact do that. Then I can also put in the location. You then also have the serial number, so I can put in the serial number of that specific phone. I can also who it was bought from. What was the purchase price? What is the replacement value? Okay, then you'll also have your user-defined fields at the bottom, so you can actually set up fields and notes. So this user-defined fields, and you'll see them situated under the customer, suppliers, and items. This is just an option to add additional fields. So let's say in my case, I've loaded this asset. I want to specifically know when was this asset issued and to whom was it issued. I can from there simply just save this asset. I can then go into my user-defined fields, go to my assets, go and select my text field 1, and I can put in it's issued to, date issued. So that's the type of information. You've got additional fields there where you can actually put it in. So from there I'll simply just say save. I will then go to my assets, select edit on my asset, issued to, I'll select then pull, and then I can also put in the date that it was issued. So let's do the 1st of May. I can from there save it. So now I've got that additional information when I am printing out reports or alternatively when I'm coming onto the system. Okay, so with that you'll be able to set up, as I said, the categories and also locations, and then you can print out reports. So reports you can either print out all the assets or otherwise via categories that you might have created with those user-defined fields. Okay, so with those user-defined fields, you can also do it on customer, suppliers, items, and assets. So specifically on your customer side, let's say you've loaded your customers, you're running a medical practice, and you want to know who the medical aid, what is the medical aid number. You can then in the numeric fields indicate medical aid number. You can then also indicate who's the next of kin. You can then also put in date of birth, medical aid name, and so forth. You can put in as much information as you like. So from there you simply say save, if I go into one of my customers and I add a customer, I can then set up a category, but if I go to my user-defined fields now, I'll see that there's next of kin, there's medical aid name, there's also medical aid number. And all I can do is just go and complete these blocks now. I can put in exactly who the medical aid is, what is the date of birth, I've got all that information. So as soon as I print out my customer master files, I'll have that information. So that's all these user-defined fields is. It's just additional information on your specific customer, supplier, item, or asset. Okay, then you're also able to import data and export data. So for the import data, you can import customers, suppliers, items, and assets. So if you have all your customers on another system, you can from there export it and import it into My Business Online. Alternatively, if you're also manually capturing through Excel, you can then also from there just save it into a CSV format and import that into My Business Online. Okay, next we're going to have a look at is the administration side. So this is when you're adding more than one user. So you'll simply go administration, manage users. You'll then simply say add user. You can then put in who that user's name is. And also the email address. So note that email address has to be 100% correct, because what will happen is as soon as you invite this user, that user will receive an email and to tell them that they have been invited with their username and then their password, and from there they can log in and have access to the system. So put in that. I can put in also a comment, telephone, mobile number, also notes. So I can put notes in the system for the specific user to say, call client XYZ, and I can log in and at any point and also see whether it's been completed or not. Okay, so I'll save that specific user, and there I've got my user. So now this person is busy receiving an email. I can simply go to administration, control user access. Because the thing is, I don't want this specific user to have access to certain parts of my company, so I can simply go to permissions. Okay, so if we just go back to that screen, you'll see on the top side we have all your companies listed. On the note, whichever one is ticked one you're actually working on. Then on the bottom left is a list of all your users, and then on the right hand side is the users that have access to that company. So you'll see now that it's myself and then the user I just added. Okay, so I'll come in, I'll select permissions. And then from there, I will go and access. So this is just one of my salespeople. I just want them to purely invoice on a customer side. So I will then remove the accountants area, account, administration. And you'll see if you drop down, you can see all the type of what you can and can't restrict them to. So I can just remove that completely, remove company. But customers, I'm going to go quite into detail on because I do want them to have access to certain things. I want them to be able to adjust, either allocate, do custom adjustments. Yes, they can add but not delete. Then draft invoices, yes. Quotes, yes. Receipts, I can go and indicate that I don't want them to do receipts at all. Recurring invoices, also not. And so forth. So you can just go through, click on the plus sign, and actually remove what they can and can't do. Once that's done, you can simply say save. And that user will then have the restrictions on their side as soon as they log in. And then from your side, once you're done on that, you can simply just say save. Okay, so just go through that. To add your user, you'll simply go administration, manage users, add that user, put in the email address, make 100% sure that email address is correct, go to control user access, go and set up any user rights that are applicable, and then you can also change your password, view your profile. So if you go to my profile, you will see on the last column there's a preferences. Note that when you are viewing your grid, you can in fact change this, so you can see 100 per plant. That means you'll scroll down as I'm doing now. So you see the 100. Alternatively, you can see it in the block that's allocated here. You'll be able to see 8 by 8 of your customers at a go and also your transactions. Alternatively, you can come in and select 50, or you want to see 80 at a go, and so forth. And then you can also select which default dashboard you want. So is it your normal dashboard, is it your customer dashboard, supplier item, and so forth, and from there you can just save it. Okay, so we've had a look now at putting in your company information. We've also looked at, adding other users to the system. The next thing we're going to have a look at is actual transacting within the system. Okay, so if you see, once you log into My Business Online, you will have the following. So note that the dashboard screen only becomes more available when you start posting on the system. But what's great about it is you can drill down on all these graphs without having to go and print a report. So if I have a look at my sales history, I've got a comparison between last year and this year. So I won't have to go and print a report to actually get those figures. From here, I can simply just have a look. What happened last year? What happened this year? From there, let's say October, I can see that I had better sales than what I did this year. I can from there simply just click down on that. It will give me a listing of each day. I can click on that specific day and also to the point where I can view the detail of that invoice. So this means not having to go and print out a million different reports to try and analyze this information. You can just drop down right to the source of that information. Okay, so we've provided these dashboard screens on each of their own sections, so customer supplies. You'll see under your to-do list as well, you've got different notes that you might have, so one company note, which you can from there simply just select the details. You can also complete it, and that will be removed then. Okay, then you've also got your top customers by sales. You can customize that by simply selecting your display chart. So note you'll have a settings option and also a grid option, or otherwise refresh or remove. You'll then also have an option for dashboard options where you can add widgets. So those are all the widgets available to you. You can simply just tick the relevant blocks, from there save it, and it will refresh. So you've got your dashboard one, you've got your customer dashboard, supplier dashboard, item, and financial. So if you have a look at your customer dashboard, this is everything to do with your customers. So you'll have a look that it's your top customer by outstanding balance. You won't have to print out a report. You can exactly go in here and see, okay, Roadbite is my top customer. I can click on that and see exactly which invoices give me that amount. So the point where I can view the detail of that invoice on my screen. Then you've also got your days outstanding, so I can see exactly who's within that 120 days. And then also top customer by sales. We can also click on it. Note the settings as well. You can go and change any settings there. You can also then change the view of it. So instead of being the pie chart, you can simply just click on that and you'll have a listing. Then you've got all the reports as well. So your list of customers, sales by customers, and so forth. Okay, the next one that we'll look at is your supplier dashboard. So exactly the same as your customer dashboard, you will have your own features related to supplier there as well. So you'll see here I've got a listing. I can simply click on the following and it will give me a graph, and I can see exactly whole cycle. Wholesalers is one of my top suppliers. I also then see who are 120 days and who are my top suppliers by purchase. I can then also see my items dashboard. From there I can also see top items by value on hand, top selling items, and then also top purchased items. This will give you a good idea when managing your business instead of going and analyzing all those reports. You can simply take these graphs and see exactly which product is doing the best, which one am I selling the most of, and from there you can actually focus on that specific product. And you've also got your financial dashboard, so it will give you an indication of your profit and loss, also what your income versus your expenses and so forth. Okay, so that is it on your home screen. Next we're going to have a look at is setting up customers, setting up suppliers, setting up your items, also your bank accounts. If you go under customers, you'll see that there's a list option where you can actually go and set up your customers. And you'll see the setup is pretty much the same throughout My Business Online. If you have a look at your suppliers, you've also got a list transaction report. Same on your customer side, also on your item side, and banking, list transaction report. So when it comes to the listing, this is anything to create. So whether you're creating a customer, supplier, an item, or banking, you'll actually go and do it there. Then you've got your transaction. So that's any transaction within that specific thing. And then also reports and special. So we're going to have a look at your customer list and then list of customers. So if you set up a customer, you'll simply just go add customer on the left-hand side. Alternatively, if you want to edit a customer, you'll see that there's an option to edit or delete. If you select the add customer, it will bring up a blank screen where you can start populating all of that information. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on one of the existing customers. So you'll put in then the customer name, also the category. So note that these categories are clearly here for reporting purposes. So if you want to go and be able to print a report on a specific category, you can actually go and set up those categories. Then you've also got the balance, so you'll put in, so if you have a look when you are setting up a brand new customer, you'll put in the customer's name, you'll then put in what the category is, you'll say general distribution, you'll then also put in what is the opening balance. So if this is an existing customer, then this person might owe you a certain amount, so let's say 5,000 Rand. You can then enter that amount. And then also, what is that opening balance rate at? So I closed my books on the 12th of May. That is in the opening balance that is left. Then there's also an active option. So is this customer active or inactive? You'll note if you deselect that block, what will happen is when you're processing on that specific customer, the system will notify you and say, listen here, this person is inactive. Then you've got your credit limit. So if you and your customer have agreed upon that your customer will not exceed 10,000 Rand, you will then indicate that. And then also, what is the tax reference number of that specific customer? So that would be the VAT number. Okay, then you've got an option for accept electronic invoices. So if your means of communication with your customer is going to be via emailing the stuff, I would suggest selecting that. And then you've also got the auto allocate receipts to all the invoices. You'll see everything that has the dotted lines below it has an explanation on top of that. So what this means is, let's say I've got 3 outstanding invoices for my specific customer. So when my customer makes payments, are they paying for a specific invoice? So let's say invoice number 2. Or alternatively, are they just paying random amounts, and then what I do is I just reduce it from the balance. So if you tick that option, the system will automatically just allocate whatever receipts are received. So whatever money is received, it will allocate it to the oldest invoice. Alternatively, if you deselect that, then the system will require you to actually go and allocate it to the correct invoice. Okay, then you've got your contact details that you can put in. So if I go to one of the existing customers, you'll put in the postal address, delivery address, and note that you can put in 4 different delivery addresses. So let's say this customer might have an office in Stanton, one in Rosebank, and so forth. You can actually go and set that up, or even one in Victoria or Cape Town. You can go put select those relevant information. Then on the right-hand side, you've got the contact name, email address. Make sure that email address is 100% correct, especially if you're going to email stuff through to that client. Then you've got your telephone number, mobile number, fax number, and then also web address for that specific customer. Then quite an important one there is statement distribution. So this means when you are doing your statement runs, when you're sending your customer the statement to show them exactly what they owe you, and also a breakdown of what was invoiced and what was paid thus far, you would then send in that statement. And that statement you can distribute either by printing it out and issuing it to your customer. Alternatively, you can also email it through to your customer. So if you have a look under your statement distribution, you can drop down and actually go and select what it is that which option you want. So you can say print or email, or otherwise print and email. So if you want to make use of both of those options, you can in fact go and select that. So I'm going to say then print and email. I can then select what is the activity, and you'll know when you're just setting up a customer, you will not have availability to the activity tab as yet. This activity tab only becomes available as soon as you start transacting within the specific customer. Then you've got your additional contacts. You can go and set up different contact points at this customer. So maybe let's say someone on the sales side, someone on the account side, whether it be the distribution manager and so forth, you can go then and put in that information. The next tab that we'll have a look at is the notes one. So this way you can put in additional notes, whether it be the customer's birthday, alternatively also a reminder to call the client to maybe purchase more items and so forth. Then you've got your use define field. So as mentioned earlier, this is just a field to put in additional information. So you'll see here it was created as type of customer, the branches, salesperson, discount, target, and so forth. Then you've also got your sales graph. So note your sales graph, quotes, and unpaid invoices will only become available once you start transacting within this customer. Okay, so once you can simply come into your sales graph. You can see a comparison between last year and this year. And from there you see exactly, what is the customer purchasing versus last year and so forth. You then also got your quotes. You see a listing of all outstanding quotes and also unpaid invoices. So what's great is you'll see all your unpaid invoices listed here. From there you can simply select them all and otherwise print them or otherwise email it through. So let's say there's a dispute between the customer and yourself. You can simply just go and click on the select all and print or email those invoices through to that client. Okay, so once it's done is you can simply just click save at the bottom and either set up a new customer or alternatively you can continue processing and transacting on that specific customer. Okay, so under there you'll have your list of customers, so where you create your customers, and then also customer categories. So we can set up the numerous categories. Then you've got your transactions. So Mobus Online takes you from the point of generating quotes, tax invoices, recurring invoices, credit notes, still forms you can actually write off this customer. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the quotes at the moment. So note that quotes are optional, so you can actually make use of the quotes. You can simply go customer quotes, select add quote, and everything works concurrent with one another. So once you set up a quote, you can convert this into an invoice, and once you select an invoice, if there's any return on that, you can from there also convert that into a credit note as well. So for the quote purposes, we'll simply drop down, go and select who the relevant customer might be. You'll then see all that information populate from what you put in on the master file when you were creating that customer. You can then also put in a customer reference, like let's say PO number. You'll have then the tax number, credit limit if applicable, and then also what is the date and expiry date. You'll then have a discount, so this is an overall discount for the specific invoice. Otherwise, you can make use of the line discount. There'll then also be an option, so some defaults to exclusive price. If you want to use inclusive, you can simply just click on the inclusive. But what you'll need to do now is you simply go and indicate what type are you working here with an item, with an account. If you are keeping track of your inventory, simply go and select item, drop down and go and select exactly what it is that you're invoicing. So I'm going to be invoicing bicycle pumps. There was a request for 6 of those to that value. I can simply also drop down. So if you have a look on your left-hand side, there's a little piece of paper with a folded edge. This is where I can go and put in additional notes. It's basically on the service side of it, and you need to give a breakdown of exactly how many hours are spent on a certain thing, and you can come and set that up. So I can then go and indicate 3 times pink pump, 3 times blue pump. Alternatively, in the service basis, you can just say 1 hour therapy, 1 hour consultation, 1 hour sleep therapy, and so forth. So especially if you're on the services side, you can actually go and put that at top information. And you've got unlimited space of how much you can type in. Then what will happen is you can either put in another item line. So let's go and put in an additional one. And then from there you can also, you'll see that there's a message that defaults through. Alternatively, you can also click on the A option and go and select one of your numerous ones set up. Alternatively, you can simply say add message, put in your message, save it, and also select to use that one. What will happen is that will appear in the box. Otherwise, you go back in there and you go and select a different one. Okay, once it's done, you'll have the option to save and print, or otherwise save and index. What I'm going to do is, in this case, I'm going to select save and print. And what will happen is that actual quotation will then appear on my screen. So you'll see you'll have your logo, all the completed information, and then also what is the description. So I've got my bicycle pump, also what it entails, the amount, and then also the message at the bottom with the total. Okay, note you'll always have this block option on top here where you can either print it, email it, or otherwise save it into one of the following formats. Okay, so that is the quote side. Now we're going to have a look at the tax invoice side. So if you're just going to simply do tax invoices, immediately you can go straight to customer transaction tax invoice. So with this tax invoice, you can simply just say add tax invoice. Don't select who the relevant customer is. From this point, you can then ensure all the information is correct, so delivery and so forth, which populates from the master file, and then you can simply come and populate the information. Alternatively, what you could do is you'll see that there's an option where it says from quote or recurring invoices. You can drop down and go and select that relevant invoice that you might have set up. Okay, so now if I have a look on this quotation side, I will then see, great, there's that pump that I might have delivered, there's a new one of that, I can then just remove that one. From that post, all of it was 100% confirmed, I still have my message there, and I can simply post it. And there you'll see as well your message with your banking details and so forth. So all you'll do is, you can either say process a new post, print, post an email, otherwise print a delivery note. So what I'm going to do is actually print that delivery note. So this delivery note is just going to stipulate exactly, especially if you're making use of third-party couriers, you don't really want them to see the cost. You can then print this out, you will then see your description and exactly what is the quantity, and at the bottom there will be an option to put in the name and also who signed it and date. Okay, so that is then on the tax invoice side. Then we've got recurring invoices. So you will make use of recurring invoices in that case where something happens on a consistent basis, so recurring basis. Let's say I've signed a contract with one of my customers to deliver an X amount of goods each and every month. I can from there go and select who the relevant customer might be. I can put in any details. I can also put in when is the start date, what is the frequency, so you've got day, week, second week, month, and so forth, so I'll indicate every month. And then also what is the end date. So it's going to end on the 13/05/2014. That's going to be your contract. Then I'll also have a due date for payment. So this is based on the aging. Do you want it to be after the day of the invoice? Otherwise, day of current month, day of the following month, end of the current month. You can actually go and select that. Then you've got your create invoice. So how do you want this invoice to be created? If as a draft, what will happen is when you log into my online system, it will indicate to you that you have one new message. From there, you can open up that message and you'll be able to then process that invoice. Alternatively, you can set automatically. So what happens is when you select the automatic option, this means whether you're on holiday on the other side of the world, whether you log in or not into the system will actually send off that invoice already for you. Okay, so one is as a draft, that means you can review it and then send it off. Otherwise, the automatic one means you set it up and that always goes off on that specific day, whether you log in or not. Okay, then you've also got an option to CC yourself and also put in an email signature, which can occur on there. And then from there, you simply just populating the items as you would do on your quotation and invoice side. Once it's done, you can simply go save. Because we've had them look at the recurring, and if you need to delete any one of them, you can simply just go to the delete option and delete it. Okay, so the next one we're going to look at is customer return. So in some cases, customers might return items, you need to compensate for that. So you can simply go add customer return. You can then go and select who the relevant customer is. So you'll see the look and feel is exactly the same as what your quotes and your invoices. And from there you can simply also select from invoice. So as I said, everything is linked to one another. So I can then go and select that specific invoice. Okay, so what you're going to do is on this specific customer return, you're going to keep only what was returned. So let's say on my bicycle pump side, only 2 were returned. I can remove the description and also go and change that to 2 of the same pumps were returned. Once that's done, I can then just purely go process and print, or otherwise post it, or otherwise process and email. So on this post and email side, it's going to bring up a screen where it will default the email address. From there I can CC or BC someone in that, also put in a subject. The attachment will go through, and then from there I can type in a message as much as you want on that specific message box. And you simply just say email reports, and this will then be emailed through to the relevant customer. Okay, the next one is then customer receipts. So please take note before we go into the customer receipts, if you are importing your bank statement, you will not make use of the customer receipt. Purely for the fact that when you're importing your bank statement, you will reflect that receipt, so payment that you've received from your customer will be reflected on your bank statement. And you will from there allocate that payment to the relevant customer. If you come in and do a customer receipt, you will be duplicating that. Okay, so if I go to customer receipts, you'll simply go add receipt, go and select who the relevant customer is. You'll then put in what was the amount that was paid. Into what a bank account, also if there's any messages you'd like to type, and then also how was that payment made. So cash, check, credit card, EFT, and so forth. You also have an option where you can tick the relevant blocks at the bottom, and also specify if you're allocating it for a specific invoice. Once it's done, you can simply just process it. Okay, so note now this is a payment that you received from the customer. If you're doing it on your banking side, you will not have to. You can completely eliminate this step. And it's purely for duplication purposes. Okay, so we go transaction, allocating receipts. So you'll note right in the beginning of the webinar when we were setting up the customer, there was an allocate to the last outstanding invoice. So if you remove that tick, that means you have to come into customer, transaction, and allocate receipts. You'll then go and select who your relevant customer is. What will happen is on your left-hand side, you will have all the outstanding invoices, and on the right-hand side, all the receipts that have been made. All you'll simply need to do is click on the transaction and drag it across. So you'll simply just click on it, from there drag it until it becomes green, drop it. And that amount will then be dropped on it. Okay, you can just keep dragging and dropping over until that balance becomes 0. Okay, so you'll see it will show which is outstanding, what is due of that specific invoice, and so forth. Okay, once it's done, you can simply go save. So let's say in the case of you've allocated a receipt but you did it incorrectly, you can go into customer transaction, allocate receipt. From there, go and select who the relevant customer might be. You'll then see on top it says show outstanding only. You can remove that tick. From there, we'll bring up all the transactions, and all you'll need to do is you'll simply click on the plus sign. You'll see that receipt and simply just drag and drop it back on the screen. Okay, so it's easy as that if you have made a mistake on allocating it. Okay, so the next one we'll have a look at is customer write-off. So it's not really something we want to have within our business, but sometimes it does where we need to write off one of our customers. You can simply go add write-off. You can go and select who the relevant customer is. And instead of actually calculating the amount, you can simply just click on the block. From there, the system will calculate that amount, and you can then process it. So it's great with My Business Online system. This means you don't have to go and post any journals to compensate for this write-off. The system does that all under the underlying for you. So this means as soon as you process this, it will create a bad debts account for you and allocate this amount to your bad debts. Okay, the next one we'll look at is customer adjustment. So this is if you're looking at increasing or decreasing your customer balance without having to generate an invoice. So this will be in a case of interest. Let's say I'm going to give one of my customers a discount, or otherwise I'm charging them interest. I can from there go and say, here's the relevant customer. I can then also indicate what is the effect. Am I going to increase or decrease it? So in my case, I'm going to increase it by affecting, I'm going to go and select interest received, put in what the amount might be. And from there I can save it. So what will happen is that specific customer's balance will increase by the 10,000 Rand, and it will also then affect my interest received account. Okay, so without generating an invoice, I'm affecting that balance, but purely on a non-invoice basis. So this means discounts or otherwise interest that I'm charging and so forth. Okay, so we've had a look now at creating the customer, also transacting within the customer. Next we're going to have a look at on the report side. So this is your customer statement run. So I've been mentioning quite a bit on the statement that you can. So it's very much similar to, let's say if you've got an Eckers account, that statement you'll receive from Eckers indicating exactly what's been purchased, also what's been paid, and so forth. So you can go and select who your customer range is. If you want to do it for everyone, you can simply leave it as blank. You can then also change your date range. You can either select the yearly, quarterly. In my case, I'm going to select quarter and current quarter. You can also show zero balance account. So if you want to send out your customers showing that they have a zero balance. Or alternatively, you can show balance brought forward. So this is the amount that you initially entered, and then also exclude fully allocated invoices. So once you've allocated the invoice, do you want it to appear on the statement or not? And then there's also an option for show detail. So this will just then be a breakdown of exactly, what was purchased and so forth. So if I go that, I can then go next. I can then indicate exactly how I want to process it. So do I want to print all the statements? Do I want to print an email as per those customer settings on the customer's master file? Or otherwise print it or otherwise email it. You can then specify that. And then from there I can just go and select to CC myself in it, and then also put in a subject message. So let's say statement for June 2013. I can then put in a message, and once that's done, I can simply go next. Once I click on this next, the system will allocate exactly how many statements were emailed, how many were printed. And from here, it will give you an idea as well of how many customers. So if you've got 20 customers, that means in total they would need to give you 20 alternative you are missing one of those statements. So either the email address isn't entered, or the statement distribution hasn't been allocated correctly. Okay, so that's on the statement run. Then on the reporting side, you also have your list of customers. So this is purely just a listing of all the customers that you have on the system. By category, you can also click down on that specific customer and view a statement of that customer. You can also then view sales by customer. So I'm not going too much into the report, but note with your date changing, if you have separate categories, you can go and select that specific category to print out. You can also then select your date range, whether it be quarterly or yearly or otherwise monthly, you also have an option then to backdate on information. So remember, because you always have access to previous information, you are able to print reports for last year or previous year, depending on how long you've been actually processing on the system. And you can include customer return, also detailed information. So you can see exactly who's that customer, what was invoiced, what did that invoice all entail, what was the cost thereof, and so forth. The next one that you've got is customer balances days outstanding. So you can see exactly who owes you money and at which point are they. So 120 days. So these need to be actioned. The next one is also customer statement. So a bit different to your statement run. With your customer statement, you're printing out one specific statement. With a statement run, you are doing this for all your customers. You are sending out their individual statements to them. It's exactly the same setup. You can go and select. You can also then print it out in a different range. And then email or otherwise. Distribute statements will take it to the statement run. Okay, the next is you've also got transactions. So you can see what transactions are within that customer. So what invoices, what credit notes, what receipts have been made, and so forth. Then you've got your customer invoice. So you can see all the invoices made out to that specific customer, and then also email sent to customers. So with it, you've got a breakdown to see exactly who of your users sent out the relevant documents, and to who was it, what was their email address, and also what was the type of account. So similar to like an audit trail, if one of your customers come back and say it wasn't sent to them, you can have a look on here, what was the date, what was the email address, what was sent to them, just make sure that it has in fact been sent to them. Okay, then you've got your special as well where you can adjust opening balances. So this means, let's go specifically to the one I set up. So on the specific customer, let's say I left the balance as 0, however I noted that the balance of a specific customer should be 2,000. I can from there just put in a reason, whatever the reason might be, and I can simply save it. So now that opening balance will now have a difference on it for an additional 2,000 rand. Okay, so just to reflect as well on the quick views as we go through the tabs. Let's say I'm on one of my customer tax invoices and I've now set up the invoice and so forth. I've got all the information there. Now, I'm not too sure if one of my employees did the processing as yet for this specific invoice. I can then go to my quick views, go to my customers. So you'll see what happens is this is a screen that goes above your current screen. So you're never losing any of the information below that. You can from here go and select to the relevant customer, see some of their details, see exactly what they owe you, what is the total quote outstanding. You can also see what are the recent transactions, and also what is the sales history to a point where you can drop down on the graph, view more detail on them, and same with your outstanding. And you can also print out their statements and also their sales reports. Then you've got all unpaid invoices. You'll be able to also select that all. You can print it or otherwise email it. Then you've also got all transactions that have possibly made for a specific customer. And then also quotes outstanding. So you'll see it also did indicate 3 here. And then you've got the 3 outstanding invoices. So once you've done and you've had a look and you've obtained the type of information you require, you can simply just close that and go back to the current page that you are on. Okay, so we've had a look now at the customer. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the supplier. So the supplier is very much similar to your customer. It's not going to go too much detail into that, but on your supplier side, you'll look at your list. From there you can set up your customer. And all you'll do is you'll simply say add customer and start putting in that information. So you can put in your supplier name. Also a category if applicable, then also what is the opening balance. So owe them 1,000 Rand up to date. I can also put in what credit limit has been given to me from my certain supplier. So we've agreed that I will not exceed 20,000. What is their VAT reference number? I can put that in, and also auto-allocate payments to the oldest invoice. So very much similar to the one on the customer side. So how do you want to go about on that? Do you want to go and allocate payments, or do you just randomly pay amounts to your supplier? If from there, you can then just go and set up the contact details, physical address. You've also got an option for 4 numerous physical addresses. You can put in the contact details, tool point of your web address. Then you've got the availability of activity. So note that this will only become available once you start processing on the supplier. So from here, you can simply go and view details to see exactly what makes up that amount, and there you'll have all the invoices. You've then also got additional contacts that you can call on the supply side. Note facility, if you'd like to add notes, use the find field for additional information. And then you've got your purchases graph, and also purchases order, so if there are any outstanding and also unpaid invoices, which you can also then go and select all and email all those invoices. Okay, so you'll see in this case there is no invoice, there is just a balance of 2,000 that is still outstanding. Okay, so that's creating your supply, also then setting up categories. Then you've got your transaction side, so it's your supply purchase order, so very much similar to the quotation side. The only difference is you're looking from a supply side. So you can go add purchase order. You can then go and select who the relevant supplier is. You'll see as well what is the balance. And from there, you'll just go and load in the information. So what is it that I need? I need to order the bicycle pumps. I need 50 of those. And from there, I can simply just process it. Okay, so the next on the supply side, we'll have a look at, so I'll just say that. Okay, on the supply side, we'll look at supplier invoice. So note exactly the same as on the customer side, everything works concurrent, so I can then go and select who my relevant supplier is. I can then drop down and then go and select that purchase order that I might have created. And what will happen is that information will then appear for me on that side. And at any point I can go and add a note as well. Once it's done, I can simply just say process and print. So I'm just going to wait for that to actually appear on my screen. But this is how all your documentation will look unless you want to customize it. And as I mentioned, this tab will always be available on any report, any document that you're viewing. Okay, then you've also got your supplier returns. And then go and select to the relevant customers, and then as you'll note, it's all linked one month. So I can then just simply go and select that invoice that was generated, go and make the changes. So let's say it's only 45. Well, let's say 5 were returned. I can from there simply just process print, otherwise process and email it. And then that supplier return will be done. The next one is also supplier payments. So same note as on the customer side, if you are making use of the banking side, so that means either manually capturing your bank statements or you are importing your bank statements, you will not make use of allocating payments. Due to the fact that you will duplicate it. So let's say on the banking side, you've allocated this payment, and you've told the system that this supplier paid me 2,000 rand. If you come again on the supplier payment side and you add that payment, there will then be a duplication. So pick whether you're doing on the banking side or this manual way, and then from there, just to ensure that there are no duplications. Okay, but if you want to make use of payment, you'll simply say add payments, select who the relevant supplier is, put in what is the payment amount and also to which bank account this will be relevant. I can then also indicate how it was paid. From there I can indicate 50,000 rand. I can either allocate it to the below, or alternatively I can simply just say process it. and then go and allocate that payment myself. So that means I can go into supplier, allocate receipts, go and select the relevant supplier, and from there I can actually just simply click and drag across the transaction. Remember, you're keeping in your mouse at all times, so you're simply just clicking and dragging it. Okay, and then once it's done, you'll simply say save. Okay, the next one is your supplier adjustments. So very similar to as on the customer side, this is to increase or decrease your balance to your supplier. So this might be in a case of where you decrease it due to the fact that your suppliers agree to give you a settlement discount, so you can decrease it then. Alternatively, if they've charged you interest on your outstanding balance, then you can then simply just go and select, okay, who is the supplier? What is the fix? Am I going to increase or decrease their balance? In this case, I'm going to increase it. I'll then by my account go and select which account it is. If I haven't got an account, I'll simply say add new account. And note, you never have to preload any information on the system. Like same on my supplier side. If I drop down and I don't have the supplier listed there, I can simply just say add new supplier and put in that information. And this is situated throughout the system. Okay, so you'll select increase, you'll then select the account, also what is the amount, and from there you can just process it. Okay, then you've got your reports, it's your list of suppliers, so just a complete listing of all those suppliers. Then you've got your purchases suppliers, your supplier balances, days outstanding. So you can see exactly who you owe and who's your number one priority if payment needs to be made. You'll then also see a supply statement as well, which is quite a nice handy thing to be able to show your suppliers exactly what they owe you and what they've paid and so forth. Then you've got supplier transactions, so a listing of exactly all the invoices. So you can go and change your date range at any point. So you'll see that you've got supply, exactly what was paid, what was invoiced, what was paid, and so forth. Then you've also got your supply invoices. Okay, I'll show you a reference of all the invoices following in sequential order. From there you can simply just click on it and that will then bring up that invoice onto your screen. Okay, so that's then on the reporting side. Then we've also got the special, so if you need to make an adjustment on one of your suppliers, you can in fact go and do that by just clicking who the relevant supplier is. If there is a balance, and then from there you can make a change. So let's say I might not have entered the balance, but I realize that they still owe me 5,000 Rand. I can from there just simply just save that and also put in a reason on why. And what will happen is that balance now will then increase. Okay, so what we've done now is we've had a look at setting up your supplier, also transacting within your supplier, and then the different reports you get and also adjusting that opening balance. So what we're going to do is we're next going to have a look at setting up your items. So I mean, you've done your customer side of it, you've done your supplier side of it, now setting up that actual product or service that your business might have. So what you'll do is you'll go to your items, from there you'll see list of items. You can then simply go to add item. You'll then put in the description of that certain item. So if I'm selling pens, I can from there indicate. I can also put in what category that item might belong. It's applicable, and then item type. So quite an important one there. Is it a physical item or is it a service item? So you'll see your main difference between if you indicate it as physical, you'll see you have a quantity factor to it and a date as well. If I indicate service, that quantity factor will then be removed. So I can indicate the physical, what is the opening cost? So it's 5 Rand, it's costing me 5 Rand for the physical item. You've then also got an active option, so is it an active item or is it inactive? If you've been selected and you try and post balance, the system will actually notify to you that this item is inactive and therefore you have an option to continue, or otherwise you can then have a look, maybe it was the incorrect item selected. From there you can select what is the tax type for this item, and then put in the selling price, so exclusive or inclusive. So it doesn't really matter which one you enter, the system will calculate the country one. So if I put in my inclusive as 10 and the system will calculate the exclusive one. From there I can also put in my opening quantity, so if I have 15 of the item, that is the date. So I've done stock, and from today that item has 15 pens. Okay, then from there my activity won't be available as yet until I start transacting on that certain item, but I can then put in my notes. So let's say an action date for the end of the month, subject will be reorder of the certain item. I can then put in a note to call whoever it might be, and then I can also then add an attachment. I can then also put in user-defined fields, so just additional information. So warehouse might be Joburg, location, alternative supplier of this certain item. Maximum reorder would be 50. The minimum maximum would be 100 of the certain item, and so forth. Then purchases graph, sales graph, and sales versus purchases. These will only become available once you actually start processing on the actual item. Then you've also got your picture option, so you can take a photo of the certain item and then upload it. So if you need to come in and see there might be a certain item that you're not too clear on how it looks, take a photo as you're uploading it onto the system, and then from there you can come in here and have a look at that certain item. And all you do is simply say add item, make sure that it is in one of the following picture formats, and you can save it. So just to go into one of those items that already have some activity within it, I can simply just go edit. From there I will see my item. I will then see that there's an activity option, so I can then see exactly what was my supply invoices, a breakdown of that. I can then also go to my purchases graph and see a comparison between last year and this year on what were the purchases like, and then I can also see what were my sales like versus last year and this year. Then you've also got a comparison between your sales and your purchases, so you can get a good indication of am I ordering enough for my sales and so forth. Okay, so that's the graph that will be produced only once you have done some sort of transacting on that certain item. Okay, so just like that you'll be able to load your item. The next one is item category. So as I said, these categories purely for reporting purposes. You can simply just say add category, put in that name, and then from there save it. You've then also got your item adjustments. So this is if you want to change the quantity on hand. So you've actually done a stock take, and you notice that some of the quantities aren't exactly as what they are on the system. From here you can simply go next. You can then go and select which certain item it might be. You'll then also be able to change the average price. So let's go according to that item. So you can put in a reason. So why is this stock take? You can then put in the new item. So let's say there was 120 only. So 4 items were either stolen or they were damaged. You can actually indicate that. And from there you can simply just go next, and that item will then be adjusted. You can also then change the cost as well. So there's either the quantity on hand or the average cost. Then you've got your selling price. Let's say on an annual basis or every second year you have an increase on your pricing, so whether it be on a product or service side. You can simply go next into that, go and select which is your item range, or alternatively what is your category, or what is your item type. So if I only want to increase my services or either just my physical items, I can actually go and select that. So let's say my services need to increase by 5%. I can then also indicate do I want to round up or down. So let's say I'm going to round up to the nearest 10 cents. So that what the system will do is it will calculate that new increase by 5% and also round it up to the nearest 10 cents. And then from there I can simply go next, and it will tell me that that is complete. Okay, so that's if you need to do those annual adjustments or every second year when you've got those price increases, and also when you do any stock takes. Then you've got your adjustment for item balance, so exactly the same thing where you select your item. From there you can change the cost or otherwise the quantity. And then you've got your numerous reports. So you've got your item listing, so a listing of all your numerous items. Also you can indicate your use-defined field. Okay, so we'll indicate the item, what is the amount you have, and so forth. What is the value thereof. Okay, note on the top, you'll always have this available, so to email, print, and also to save into one of the following formats. Okay, then you've got your sales by items. So this is very similar to that graph you saw on the actual items. You can see exactly who are your customers, what did they buy, what was the invoice, the credit note, and so forth. And then the next one is also purchases by items. So you'll see majority of your suppliers on here. Okay, then you've got your item movements. So you can see exactly what's going in and what's going out of your certain items. Okay, so you can see what's been invoiced, what supply invoice has been done. And then as well, what is your item valuation? So this gives you an indication of what the item is, what is the quantity on hand that you have, and then also what is the value. So especially if you need to do a stock take, print out this report, you can see exactly what quantity is on hand, and from there you can go and have a look what you have in the back room and so forth. And then also what is the value of that. Okay, so that is on the item side. Next we're going to do is we're going to have a look at banking. So I mean, just sum it up, we've had a look at setting up your customers, your suppliers, and your items. So now what we're going to do is setting up those bank accounts. So this is more related to your income and expenses, so receiving and paying money as well. So on your banking side, you'll have lists. So you'll have your list of banks and credit cards. Then also the categories that you can set up, and then also quick entry rules and bank statement mapping rules. So what we'll do is we'll go first to list of banks and credit cards. So this is a listing of all the relevant bank accounts you might have. So from here you can simply just go add accounts, and you can put all the different accounts. If it's an investment account that you might have, you can enter that as well, and so forth. So you will just put in the different type of bank that you will have. So let's call it test. We'll select the category, so let's say check. We'll put in the account number, branch name. We'll then also put in the description, and then also active, so is this an active bank account or not. Then you've got your default, so by default it means whenever you're transacting, do you want this to be your default account that comes up first, or alternatively, if not, then you'll leave it deselected. Then you've got your opening balance. So remember, this opening balance needs to balance with what is actually happening on your bank side. So as of today, what is that balance? So if I had a look at my bank statements, I had a look that it was 9,542 Rand still remaining. As of that date, then I can also put in my branch code. So whatever happens now, because if you have a look at a certain point, you need to make sure that on the banking side, on my business online, if it says you still have 10 Rand in your account, on your banking side, it should also say that you only have 10 Rand on your account. Okay, once you set up that account, you can simply say save. Okay, you can even set up a petty cash account as well. So look a bit different. You'll put in your description as petty cash. You won't have an actual bank, but you'll just indicate it as petty cash, and from there save it. Then you've also got your bank categories, so those were the ones we had a look at. From there you can say add category, you can then put in petty cash. You can save it if that's if you have more than one petty cash. Okay, so I mean by petty cash you're clearly indicating the actual cash that you have within your business. So it's not an actual bank account, but it might be with you at the offices. Then you've got your quick entry rules. So what this means is you making the system smarter. You telling the system, whenever I type a certain thing, so just as an example here, Telcom, automatically link it to this account and that telephone account. Okay, so if I go into my banking side, I go to my transaction, process banks and credit cards, and I go, you'll see that that's my default bank account that's been selected. If I put in my description as Telcom, automatically it will link up to my account and phone. If I put in, let's say, Vodacom, I will see that I would need to go and link it. So I would need to say allocate to my account, to telephone, and so forth. So what I can do is I can actually then go and create under my quick entry rule. So whenever you see Vodacom, already map it as well. So map it to my telephone account. And from there you can also split transactions as well. What we'll do is we'll go into that as soon as we're done with the quick entry rules. Okay, so you can simply just come in here, add one, you can say Vodacom. And from there I can save it. Okay, the next one I will look at is bank statement mapping rules. So this, I would always advise when setting this up, rather to do it as you're importing your bank statement, instead of actually coming and setting them up in advance. Because what happens is as you import your bank statement, you can already tell the system whenever you see that certain wording, map it already for me. Okay, so that's what we're going to have a look at. Next, we're going to have a look at the 3 different ways that you can get your bank statement into the My Business Online system. One is you can print out your bank statement from your bank side and you can manually capture it line by line. Your second option is you can actually go into your bank side, you can export that bank statement, and from there you can save it onto your desktop and then import it into My Business Online. Your third option that you have is you can directly create a link between your My Business Online account and your bank side. So this means whenever you log into My Business Online, you can automatically pull through those transactions. So this means you don't have to first log into your bank account and so forth. You will always be up to date on all the transactions because the system will tell you that there's a new transaction. You'll simply refresh on it and those new transactions will pull through. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at each of this. If you have a look at transaction process, banks and credit cards, so this is if you're doing it manually. So you've got your printout next to you and from here you are putting in each description as it comes along. So you're putting in telecom, you note that the amount is then 5,000 Rand. The next one is ESCOM. And so forth. So you're putting in, let's say, one of your payments from one of your suppliers. So you're putting the exact same wording as what you've got on your bank statement. And from there you can also go to your receipt side, put in any receipts that you might have received, transfer in or transfer out from your bank account. Once that's done, you can simply just process it and those transactions will then be processed. Then you'll have a look on your actual processing of your banks and credit cards. Let's say you went to go and buy groceries, but now you note that when you purchase these groceries, let me get to my account, I can link it to my expense, and then there was an amount of 5,000 Rand. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to split this transaction now because I've made that purchase, but I've noticed that there were also computer expenses, not just equipment. So from here I'm going to indicate okay, so I've split those 2 amounts. From there I can simply just save it. So now what will happen is I can see, okay, there might have been one amount on my bank side, however this needs to be allocated to 2 different accounts. And that's what I've done now on that split. And from there I can simply just process it. And note that you can also add an attachment to that. So just to go back into that, you can add an attachment of, let's say, that certain item you might have purchased, the warranty on it, and so forth. You can simply click on that attachment, browse for that. So whether it's in a PDF, an Excel format, you can upload any of those documents onto the system. Okay, the next one we're going to look at is your actual bank statement. So this is when you're importing that bank statement. So you can go to the bank statement, have a look at the different accounts. From there you have 2 different formats that you can import. So it's an OFX format and a CSV format. So majority of our banks do support OFX, so have a look when you are logging into your bank account, go to your statement section, have a look for the format that allows you to export, drop down and have a look for anything that indicates .ofx. So it might say Microsoft.ofx, that's perfectly fine. Just have a look for those key letters in there. With RFX, you'll save it to your desktop. From there, it's not a readable file. So if you do try and open it, the system will not allow it. However, our system can read that file. Your second option then is CSV. So note with a CSV, it needs to be set up in the following format. So date, description, and amount. So when you open that CSV file, it will open it up in an Excel. Make sure that if you have any additional fields that you do remove that. So just to give you an example of it, this is how the file should look. So you've got the date, description, and amount. Okay, once you've selected that, you can select which day format it is. You can simply then browse for that file. You can then click on it, and then from there select import file. So what will happen is it will run and it will actually then bring up that certain file. So you'll see as I imported it, I've already started mapping some of my transactions. So the system would have remembered some of these transactions and graded out for me. Okay, alternatively, what I can do is there's an additional one that I have now. So salary, I can simply drop down, go have a look for that certain salary and wages, and from there I can map the transaction as well. So I can create a rule to say every time you see salary, link it up to my account and salary. I can save it and you'll see that becomes greater. Now in some cases I might also want to split it between normal salaries and let's say manager salaries as well. I can from there just create a new account and let's say call it. I can then link it up to an expense category and save it. So now what will happen is I will do that split of 2,500 Rand. So I've done that split now and I simply just save it. Okay, so now what I've done is I've mapped, so I imported it. From there, I've just allocated what is the type or what is the selection. And from there, once it's done, is I simply just say save or process. Once I process that, it will in fact then process into the system. If let's say I've made any changes, so I need to make any changes on the system. So I did something incorrect. I can simply go to transaction, process banks and credit cards. From there, I can click on that option, show previous banks and credit cards. I can select the date range for that. So when it might have occurred, I can then click on refresh. And what will happen is we'll bring up all those transactions for me. What I can simply do is if I remember a certain date, go and indicate that specific date. Otherwise, go and look for your specific transaction. So here I've noted that it was that certain transaction, or it wasn't supposed to be that certain amount. So let's work on that, and it was actually 4,500. I can from there go and make that a change, and then from there just process it at the bottom. And that will then include that specific change now onto the system. Okay, so now what we've done is we've had a look at manually capturing it under process banks and credit cards, then importing it. So as quick as just simply browsing, bringing it in and selecting which account, and so whether it's an account, a supplier, or customer, and then linking it up to the relevant account, and then from there also creating those rules. So you're making the system smarter. So when you do import, it will automatically remember that. Okay, then the next one is manage automatic bank feeds. So I'm not going to go too much into this one. So what happens is you will basically go and select your relevant bank account, so whether it be Netbank, Standard Bank, AXA, whichever it might be. From the listing, you will go and select that relevant bank account. From there, you will go next. It will then ask you for your details. Once you've entered your details, you'll simply go next. The step after will connect in with your bank account. So it will take a few minutes. Once that's done, you'll simply indicate which bank account it must go to. Okay, so on that specific bank account, you will then just go and allocate it. We'll also bring in your balances for that specific bank account. And from there, you just click finish, and that will always stay connected. So this means every time you log into MyBusiness Online, you will have a red bar on top of your screen to say new transactions already. You'll bring in those transactions. You'll simply map them. If you've already created rules previously, you'll just go and allocate those few odd ones that might fall through. And then from there, you just simply process it. So you'll never go through a process where there might be differences between your bank account and what you've entered, because they will always be up to date, because every transaction that pulls through, you will allocate. Okay, and this is absolutely free to actually bring in your statements as well. Okay, so that's on the transacting side. Then we've got reports. You've got a list of all your banks and credit cards. You've also got your banks and credit card transactions. So if you go to your list of banks and credit cards, just to give you an example of that, you can exactly see what is the balance. You can compare this as well on your actual bank side, that those balances are in fact the same. Then you've also got your bank and credit card transactions, so you can see exactly what's gone in, what's gone out, what have you paid, and so forth, and also what have you received. You also have a look at your cash movement. So this is just a total of what the balance was prior, what have you received, what have you paid out, and what have you transferred, and then also what's the closing balance. And then you've also got your cash flow. Okay, so I'll give you an exact indication there. Okay, then you've also got your special, where you can just adjust those opening balances. So let's say the account that I've just created, the balance was incorrect, and it was in fact supposed to be 24. I can then just go make the changes, incorrect. So I can just indicate that it was a typo, and from there I can simply just say save. And that will then update that balance for me. So you'll see there's a 24. Okay, so that is on the banking side. So it's simply just linking up your bank accounts, importing those transactions, and allocating them to the correct account, or otherwise customer or supplier. The next thing we're going to have a look at is your account side. So this is where you've got your list of accounts. So normally known also as your general ledger, or otherwise ledger account. So we simply just indicate it as accounts, because that is what it is. So what we've done is we've given you a few listed accounts on your side. What you can do is you can go and customize it, so either you can delete something, or otherwise you say add account, you put in your description and link it up with your category. So what we've done is on these categories we've also given explanations of what they are. So have a look. If you do need some advice, ask one of your financial advisors, or otherwise phone us at Pastel, and we could probably advise you on which one. But alternatively, it's always good to just ask either your accountant or bookkeeper with regards to those. But if you are sure, just link it up to that relevant account, and from there you can save it. Okay, then you also have an option to do those adjustments as well on any of the opening balances that you might have loaded. And then also a report where you've got your list of all those accounts. Okay, so you can see exactly which are your sales, your cost of sales, your expenses, non-current assets, current assets, and so forth. Okay, and then also count transactions. Okay, so you can see which accounts are affected, advertising, that certain. Okay, just see what was processed on that certain account. Then you've got your accountant area as well, so if you want to send notes to your accountant, they do have an option to be part of the My Business Online advisory program, where you can then post notes to your accountant to tell them to do certain things, also upload images onto the system. So just to give you an idea, I can go and select my accountant, I can indicate whether it's a note, a meeting, or a reminder. So let's say it's a note, I've bought an asset, so I'm going to say, card, please load. I can ask, please load the asset, add the attachment, so that certain cost that I might have paid and so forth, and from there I can save it. So what will happen is that accountant will then receive an email, and then when they log in, they'll receive this note on their side to indicate that they have had a request from your side, and you can then also see when it's been actioned. Okay, then you've also got an option to process journal entries. You can indicate whether you're going to debit or credit it, and which account, and also what account you're going to affect. You've also got your tax payments and refunds. So you can see your output tax and also your input tax. Okay, so your sales versus your purchases, and then from there it will indicate exactly what is payable by you. There's also a tax adjustment. So as I said, with that, just get some advice from your tax advisor with regards to any tax adjustments that you might do on the system. But from there, you've got your reports, you've got your trial balance, also any opening balance and tax adjustments, audit trail, tax reports, tax payments and refunds, and also audit trail. Then you've also got your trial balance export, so where you can actually export your trial balance and also assign account code. So if you are making use of the auditor package, you can from there simply allocate account codes to your numerous accounts. From there simply save it. Once you've saved it, you can export that into Excel, and from there you can import it into your auditor package. Okay, and that's simply by going just trial balance export. Okay, then you've got your reports. We've had a look at your customer reports, your supplier reports, items and inventory, also banks and credit cards, the tax side of it. So just to go into the tax report, you've got your overall tax report, audit reports, and tax payments and refunds. So if you go into your tax report, you'll see that you'll have a summary of exactly what's been invoiced and so forth, and you'll see what the amount was, what was the tax portion of that. So if you go on all these pages, on the last page, you'll see exactly what made up your output tax and what made up your input tax to give you what is payable by you. Then you've also got the accounts we had a look at in your financial statements. So we've got our profit and loss. I mean, in the end, this is what we're doing. We're trying to see, you process all the information to obtain your financial statements. So your profit and loss to see, how are things in your business? How are you compared to last year? So you can also click for comparison for last year. You can print out whether it be a quarterly, you can print it on a monthly basis. So I can compare it to last year and see, okay, what did I do last year, what did I do this year? Why is it lower, why is it higher? And you'll have that complete breakdown. You can then also view a statement of assets and liabilities. Note you'll always have this on top where you can email it, print it, and also save it in kind of the following format. But from here, you can have a breakdown and see exactly, okay, what is this loan from owner? You can click down on that and see, okay, there was a journal entry posted on that day. You can then go back and have a look as well, what is your tax payable, what is your trade payables, what loans do you have? You can from there click down on the loan. You'll see that was also journal entry. So point where you can also click down and see what are your tax payables. So that's what's great about these reports. You don't have to go and print out another report to obtain this information. You drop down, and from there you can see all that information. Okay, and from the financial statements as well, your trial balance. Okay, so you'll have a complete listing there of your sales, cost of sales, expenses, also what is the debit, the credit of it, and so forth. You can also see what your retained income is. You can click on there just to get a breakdown of that, and where that profit amount was obtained from. Okay, then we've also got the asset report, so just a listing of all your assets, and also other. So this is where you can print out your to-do list and also the audit trail. You can see exactly what users have done what on the system. So if I click on that, I can from there see, okay, this specific user on that specific date and time did this transaction, the process was created, it was edited, it was deleted, and so forth. See, especially if you're inviting different users on the system, it's quite important to see what changes they make and keeping track of those type of changes. Okay, if you go to all those reports, you'll see it says updated, and so forth. Okay, then you've also got your accounting reports, so there's your trial balance, your opening balance and tax adjustments, your audit trail, tax reports, and so forth. You can also view that tax audit report. And remember, with all your reports, you can either print out last year, so you can select the yearly range, last year, the year before. So there's no tax. So what it's basically telling me is that there has been no changes, so there hasn't been any tax adjustments on this file. Okay, but just note with all your reporting, you can always drop down, go and select monthly, quarterly, otherwise last month, last quarter, or even select your custom dates where you go and select your own date. And this is applicable on all the reports where you've got those date ranges. Okay, so we've reached the end of today's webinar. Please feel free to give us a call. Our support line is 011-304-3805. Alternatively, if you have any queries, email us at support@pastelmybusiness.co.za. I do hope that you found today's webinar very informative, and I do hope to see you at our next webinar. Have a lovely day, sir.